When I say the word Kamen Rider, what exactly comes into your head? For most of you, it may be the first ever season that you watched all the way through. For me, that's Forze. But for a lot of you, it may be this very specific image. When it comes to Ultraman, most of them kind of look exactly the same. And when it comes to Super Sentai, all you really need is a group of color-coded heroes in order for them to be deemed a Sentai team. But when it comes to Kamen Rider, we seem to be a lot more flexible in what we deem to be and not to be a Kamen Rider. So today, we're going to be ranking every single Kamen Rider based on how much they look like a Kamen Rider. I don't know how else to explain it. So first and foremost, we're going to start off by making a whole new row. And we're going to call this row Showa. Because most of the Showa era riders were designed with this very similar concept in mind of like what a Kamen Rider is and what it's supposed to look like. Alright, so that's basically all of the Showa era riders. The only exceptions really being Rider Man. That's mostly because he doesn't have a faceplate and looks weird. And the other two being Amazons and Shin. I'm moving Amazons because don't worry about it. Shin is literally like a Kamen Rider if it was a monster. Like, it's another rider before another riders were a thing. And Amazons, I don't know, Amazons just doesn't look like a Kamen Rider to me all that much. So I'm putting it in A because it doesn't look like the rest of them. Yeah, okay. So next up, we're gonna put Kuga and Agito in A. And that's because Kuga and Agito have this very similar design concept in that you can kind of tell that they were supposed to be like the new era, new vibe, new wave like design and like sort of idea of what a Kamen Rider was supposed to look and feel like. This very like regal golden crown, red eyes design. They look very similar, and you can kind of tell that this was supposed to be like a modern depiction of like what Kamen Rider was to become in the Heisei era. And then Ryuki came and fucked that up. Ryuki does not look like a Kamen Rider. Not even a little bit. It looks so drastically different from the rest of these that it's almost weird to look at. Like the whole like night visor, while being really cool, kind of hides those bug eyes, and it also doesn't have like that V crest sort of shape, making it look so drastically different from every other rider. The only reason why it's not an F is because like, I don't know, like it has that sort of like muscular chest plate. I feel like that's kind of like a Showa thing, and I feel like that's what Kamen Rider is all about. I also want to note that I'm not ranking these suits based on how much I like them. I'm ranking them based on how much they look like Kamen Riders. I want to make that clear because Shin would be an S tier. Not even a question about it. I'm probably the only person in the world who likes that suit. So after Ryuki was, what was it? Faiz? We're putting Faiz in C. Faiz has those compound eyes, and it kind of has like that sort of split, like that sort of like V crest at the top, but he doesn't have like any sort of bug aesthetic about him. He looks very weird. He's a tech rider, which is what he's supposed to be, but he doesn't look like a full Kamen Rider. So we're gonna put him in C. Maybe we can put him in B. We can leave him in B. We're putting Blade in B and Faiz in C. Blade looks like what Ryuki is trying to do, in that it's supposed to be like this knight Kamen Rider, this knight sort of regal European knight themed rider. That is what Blade is doing, and I think a major part that has to do with that is the fact that it has the beetle design. Hibiki's an F. Hibiki does not look like a fucking Kamen Rider. Not even a little bit. Those suits do not look like Kamen Rider suits. They look like something else entirely. I don't know what. They look like they're out of Garo or something. They do not look like Kamen Riders. Kabuto's an S. Kabuto, y'all seen the clip.
Stronger. Strongest.
Like, he looks like a modern version of Stronger. Like, it's just a fact. So Kabuto just is, he looks like a rider, and it's because of the bug theme. That's a major part that has to do with it. Deno I'm gonna put in A2. Reason being, he has the big bug eyes, and I think the sort of faceplate aesthetic that he has going on reminds me a lot more of like V3 type of thing, where it's got like the railroad tracks kind of look like V3, Zeto, a lot of like those early Showa designs. So that's kind of like sick in how they sort of entangled that in there. The big buggy compound eyes definitely make it look a lot more like a Showa era rider. So I'm gonna put it in A, just because I feel like I feel like he fits. I feel like he fits. He's no more different from like a Showa rider than like Amazon's is, if that makes sense. Kiva, I'm putting in putting Kiva in D. You know, I'm gonna put him in C because he has that bulky sort of armor look and the compound eyes. Decade we're putting in C. Oh yeah. No, Decade we're putting in D. Decade does not look like a Kamen Rider at all. I don't know if it's the barcode look to him. I think that's what it is, to be honest with you. Decade doesn't look like your typical rider, not even a little bit. Double's going in S tier. Double looks like a Kamen Rider. Double looks like a Ichigo sort of like next gen sort of design to him. Like the only thing that's really different about him is the fact that his little V crest is a W and that he's split into two colors down the middle, but that's what Double's all about. So you can't, that's the whole gimmick of Double. So you can't knock it down a peg in terms of if it looks like a Kamen Rider, if that's its gimmick. I love O's design, so don't get mad at me when I say this, but I'm putting O's in D. Yeah, no, O's looks like something else entirely. That looks like something like Bima, Satira, Garuda, whatever the hell that show is from Indonesia, which those suits look flames. But they don't look like Kamen Riders, so I'm putting them in D. Forze is like my de facto rider, because it was my first. I just said that earlier. But he kind of looks like a metal hero. He definitely has the compound eyes, obviously, and he has the V crest. So I'm gonna put him in C just for that. But he may not deserve to be in C. I'll contest to that. Who's after Forze? Wizard? Wizard's going in D. Wizard looks like a Kamen Rider, but like the whole jewel, I think it's a jewel aesthetic. No, I'll put him in C. I'll put him in C because like those sort of like his like whole jewel armored look to him. It has that Kamen Rider vibe to it, like those sort of like the big pecs chest plate type thing is what I mean by the bulkiness. So I'm gonna put it in C just because he has that, and he does have the crest, and he does have the big eyes. Really, what's holding him back, the only thing that's holding him back really is the fact that those eyes aren't compound eyes, is the only thing really holding him back. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna put him in B. Yeah, if he looked like a bug, if he was based on more of a bug and less of a jewel, I'd probably put him higher. Gaim does not look like a Kamen Rider. I'm sorry. I love these suits. Gaim doesn't look like a fucking Kamen Rider. Not even a little bit. Gaim doesn't have bug eyes. The V crest, well, don't get me wrong, I like his little moon shape look. It's not what the Kamen Riders have, and also his like chest armor isn't that stereotypical sort of chest armor. Gaim does not look like a Kamen Rider. He just doesn't. Drive, we're putting him in C because Drive also looks like a metal hero. Actually, no, Drive really looks like a metal hero. We're putting him in D. Ghost we could put in C. He has the big eyes. He has like a unison, like a unihorn. He has a unihorn, and he does have like that sort of bulky look to him with like his chest and stuff. So I think he's well belonged in C. Nope, XA doesn't look like a Kamen Rider. Those like big anime eyes, the anime hair. No, he just doesn't. I'm gonna put Build. I'm gonna put Build in B. I feel like he could be an A. I feel like a lot of these in B could be an A. But just for the sake of what we're doing here, I'm gonna put Build in B. He kind of... the only thing that is holding him back, genuinely, is that he's not fully a bug. But at the same time, it doesn't really matter because he just looks like a Kamen Rider. G-O. How do you say it? We're putting him in C. I'll put him in B. I don't even like Gio's design. I really don't. We'll put him in B. Amazons. We're gonna put him where we put the other two Amazons. Only because it's meant to be a modern depiction of those suits. And so to say that it isn't would just be false. So we're not gonna do that. And we're back with the channel's favorite editing software, MS Paint. And we're going to be adding in all the riders that weren't on the initial list. 01 is S tier. 100%. 01 looks like a Kamen Rider. He has the grasshopper aesthetic, the big bulky armor. Even his driver kind of looks like the original Kamen Rider driver. You just got to give it to 01. He looks, he's a Kamen Rider. He just is, through like in and out. That's just what he looks like. We're gonna put Saber in C. I don't think Saber really looks like a Kamen Rider. He definitely doesn't do like the Knight mixed with Kamen Rider thing as good as Blade does. And last but not least, we got Revice. He's going in F. Put him in D. Revice ain't looking like a Kamen Rider. If he didn't have those eyes, and the fact that every single one of his forms is based on everyone on this list, he wouldn't look like a Kamen Rider. I'm telling you straight up, he wouldn't even be in the running. But because he has those eyes, 95% it has to do with the big eyes, he would be an F. Straight up. So this is the list. This is every single Kamen Rider based on how much they look like a Kamen Rider. I'm telling you right now, this whole list would be a billion times different if we were ranking suits. I promise you. I promise you. Let me know if you want a suits tier list. That sounds boring, but let me know if you want a suits tier list. Again, this isn't based on how much I like them. Please don't be mad at me. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye bye.